My name is Lisa Bennett, 34 years old, and my world came crashing down the day my tech startup in Austin, Texas went bankrupt, all in the blink of an eye with one devastating email. Years of relentless grinding, high-stakes pitches, and bold dreams vanished overnight, leaving me buried under mounting debts. In a moment of raw desperation, I devised a risky test. I called my family, pretending I was broke, and begging for money just to survive to uncover who truly cared. My heart pounded as I dialed Dad first. He hung up mid-sentence, too wrapped up in his shiny new life. Mom's icy voice branded me a failure, refusing even a dime. But my sister, a struggling single mom, didn't hesitate. She loaded her young son into their beat-up car and drove 200 miles with her last $600 to rescue me. Their stark reactions, Dad's cold silence, Mom's venom, my sister's selfless sacrifice, ignited a fire in me, revealing a shocking secret inheritance that tested loyalties, exposed greed, and sparked a transformative journey of redemption, cutting ties and rebuilding from the ashes. Have you ever been let down by family in your darkest hour, or discovered true support when it mattered most? Share your story in the comments. I'm reading everyone, and my tale might just inspire your own comeback. Before my company tanked, Austin felt like the center of my universe. At 34, I founder of Learn Easy, an app designed to help kids with learning disabilities master math. It was my passion sparked years ago by my sister, a teacher who saw every child as a puzzle worth solving. We'd raised $5 million in funding, and I spent my days pitching to investors, tweaking code late into the night, and dreaming of changing lives. My sleek loft in East Austin, with its exposed brick and coffee shop vibe, was my sanctuary, proof I'd made it. 2 years earlier, I'd walked away from a crumbling marriage. No kids, no regrets. The divorce left me raw, but Learn Easy became my focus, my identity. Every ounce of energy went into building something meaningful, even if it meant drifting from my family. My dad left when I was 8 after a messy divorce that split our world. He moved to Phoenix, chasing a new life, leaving me and my sister to navigate the fallout. Mom remarried a retired car dealer in Miami, a man obsessed with appearances. They lived for cocktail parties and shiny new toys, always one step from overspending. My sister, 4 years younger, was different. A single mom in Tulsa, she raised her 5-year-old son on a teacher's salary, scraping by in a small apartment. Her husband died in a car crash 3 years ago, and she never asked for help, even when I knew she needed it. She was my rock, the one who'd held my hand through childhood fights, whispering we'd be okay, when our parents' shouting shook the walls. I'd always been the driven one, the sister who left for college and never looked back. Austin's tech scene pulled me in hackathons, startup meetups, endless hustle. Learn Easy wasn't just an app. It was my way of giving back, of proving I could build something that mattered. My best friend Steven, a financial advisor, was there from the start. He'd crunch numbers, polish my pitch decks, and land us our first big investor. But he warned me early on, Lisa, don't bet everything on one venture. Startups fail. I laughed it off, too caught up in the thrill of success. We'd secured a second round of funding, and TechCrunch called Learn Easy a game changer. I felt untouchable. Looking back, I see the cracks. I'd call my sister maybe once a month, our chats brief but warm, her voice steady as she described her son's latest obsession with dinosaurs. I'd send a quick text to Mom, but her replies were sharp, always comparing me to her friends' kids with real careers. Dad was a ghost, maybe a birthday card every few years signed with his new wife's name. Stephen was the only one I saw regularly, grabbing beers at Zilker Brewing talking shop. But even he noticed I was stretching thin, pouring my soul into Learn Easy while my family faded into the background. Those childhood memories haunted me sometimes. I'd lie awake remembering the night I hid under my bed, 9 years old, clutching my sister's hand as Dad stormed out for good. She'd promised we didn't need him, that we'd build our own family. She kept that promise, even when I didn't. Her son, my nephew, was a bright spot, his giggles over FaceTime asking me to read him stories about robots. I'd always say I was too busy promising next time. Now, standing on the edge of losing everything, I wondered if I'd pushed them all too far away. My company was my world, but it was about to crumble, and I didn't know who'd be there when it did. It all unraveled with a single email on a quiet Tuesday morning. I sat at my kitchen counter, coffee gone cold, staring at my laptop. The subject line from our lead investor read, "Funding terminated." My stomach dropped. They'd pulled out, citing market volatility, leaving LearnEasy dead in the water. My app, built to help kids like the ones my sister taught, was done. I owed $20,000 in vendor debts with barely enough in the bank to cover rent. My team, 10 developers who'd trusted me, would lose their jobs. I refreshed the email, hoping it was a mistake, but the words stayed cold and final. I'd poured 5 years into this dream, and now it was ash. I couldn't call Steven yet, he'd warned me about risky investors. I couldn't face my sister, not after promising her my app would make a difference. And my parents. They'd probably say I deserved it. Then the doorbell rang. A courier handed me a thick envelope return address from a law firm in San Francisco. Inside was a letter from my Aunt Margaret's estate. She passed away last month, a distant yet cherished figure, my mother's sister, who had always adored me from my earliest days without ever having a family or children of her own. She showered me with birthday cards filled with warmth, though she never once visited. Later in life, she moved to San Francisco to live and work, building her successful chain of boutique hotels there. The letter said she'd left me $5 million from her chain of boutique hotels. I froze, rereading the number. 5 million. A handwritten note from Margaret was tucked inside. Lisa. Your fire reminds me of me. Use this wisely. My throat tightened, pride, grief, and panic hit at once. I hadn't seen her in a long time yet. She'd seen something in me I couldn't see myself. I opened my laptop, hands shaking, and searched sudden wealth. The results were grim. 60% of large inheritances tear families apart. Stories of siblings suing parents demanding handouts, friendships crumbling. My family was already fractured. Dad in Phoenix chasing a flashy life with his new wife. Mom in Miami tied to her husband's ego. My sister in Tulsa stretched thin, raising her son alone. I'd drifted from them, consumed by LearnEasy, but I still hoped they cared. The money could fix everything or destroy what little we had left. I thought of my sister, how she'd never ask for a cent even when her fridge was empty. Then I thought of Dad, who'd barely called since I was a kid, and Mom, who'd judged every choice I made. I couldn't tell them about the money. Not yet. The inheritance felt like a bomb, and I needed to know who'd stand by me without it. If I told them now, their reactions would be tainted. Greed could mask love, or worse, fake it. I'd read about inheritance curses where money turned families into strangers. I wasn't ready to lose what little I had left of them. So I made a plan. I'd call Dad, Mom, my sister, and Steven, pretending I was desperate, begging for a few $1,000s to cover my debts. It wasn't about the money, it was about who'd show up when I was at my lowest. My chest tightened at the thought. Would they care enough to help? Or would they turn their backs like they had before? I stared at my phone, the contact list glaring back. Dad's number unchanged since I was a teenager. Mom's saved with a Miami area code. My sister's with a heart emoji next to her name. Steven's from late-night strategy sessions. I didn't know what I'd hear when they picked up, but I needed to know. The inheritance was my secret, a weight I'd carry alone until I saw who they really were. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the call button. This was it, the moment I'd find out if I had anyone left. The first person I called was Dad. My hands trembled as I waited, the Arizona area code staring back at me. Paul Bennett. My father answered on the third ring, his voice clipped like he was already distracted. Lisa. What's up? I swallowed hard, my rehearsed plea spilling out. Dad, my company went under. I'm drowning in debt. Can you lend me $5,000? Silence. Then I heard his new wife in the background laughing about a cruise they'd booked to the Bahamas. Lisa, we're stretched thin, he said sharply. You should have planned better. Before I could respond, he muttered, "Gotta go," and the line went dead. I stared at my phone, the beep echoing like a door slamming shut. He hadn't even asked if I was okay. His priority was clear: his new life, his new wife, their shiny plans. I wasn't part of them. I took a shaky breath and called Mom next. Diane Bennett's Miami number felt foreign, like calling a stranger. She picked up, her tone bright until I mentioned my name. "Oh, Lisa." She sighed as if I'd already disappointed her. I repeated my plea, voice cracking. "Mom, I'm in trouble. The company's gone. I need $5,000 to cover debts." Her laugh was sharp, cutting through me. "A failure, just like I warned you," she said. "You thought you were better than everyone chasing that startup nonsense. My friend's daughter just bought a house. Why can't you be like her?" She went on saying she and her husband Ronald Pierce couldn't help because their condo payments were due. "We're not a bank?" She snapped, then hung up. Her words burned, each one a jab at my worth. Their rejections hit harder than the bankruptcy. I sank onto my couch, memories flooding back. I was 8 again, hiding in my closet while Dad packed his bags, yelling he was done with us. Mom would stand in the doorway, blaming him, blaming me, blaming everyone but herself. I'd felt invisible then, and now, decades later, nothing had changed. Dad's life in Phoenix revolved around his new wife's demands: designer bags, lavish trips. He'd barely called in years, and now he couldn't spare a moment to hear me out. Mom's voice, dripping with judgment, echoed her old habit of comparing me to others. She and Ronald lived for appearances, their Miami condo a symbol of status they couldn't afford. Neither had asked how I was holding up, if I was eating, sleeping, surviving. I curled up, my chest tight with loneliness. I'd built Learn Easy to prove I was more than their failures, more than the kid they left behind. But their words. Dad's dismissal, Mom's cruelty, made me question everything. Did they ever care about me? Or was I just a trophy when I was winning? I thought of the $5 million hidden in my bank account, Margaret's gift that could erase my debts in a heartbeat. But it felt hollow now. Money couldn't buy their love, and I was starting to wonder if they'd ever loved me at all. I'd always told myself family mattered, but maybe I'd been clinging to a lie. The worst part was the silence after their calls. No follow-up texts, no concern, just nothing. I replayed Dad's "gotta go" and Mom's failure in my head, each word carving a deeper wound. I thought of my sister out in Tulsa, probably grading papers or tucking her son into bed. Would she be different? Or was I fooling myself, hoping someone in this fractured family still saw me? I didn't know, but I had to find out. My finger hovered over her number, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. After those crushing calls, I dialed Karen's number with trembling hands. My sister Karen Walsh picked up on the first ring, her voice warm, despite the late hour. "Lisa, you okay?" she asked, concern cutting through the static. I forced the words out, my throat tight. "Karen, my company's gone. I'm in debt. Can you lend me $5,000? I braced for hesitation, but she didn't pause. "I've got 600 saved," she said. "It's yours. I'll drive to Austin tomorrow with Ethan." I blinked, stunned. Karen, a single mom and elementary school teacher in Tulsa, lived paycheck to paycheck. $600 was probably her grocery money for the month, yet she was ready to pack her 5-year-old son, Ethan Walsh, into her creaky 2008 Honda Civic and drive 200 miles to hand it over. "You don't have to come," I stammered, but she cut me off. "You're my sister. I'm not letting you go through this alone." Her words hit like a wave, lifting me and sinking me all at once. I hung up, my eyes stinging, and scrolled to Stephen's number. My best friend, always the practical one, answered with a cautious, "Hey, Lisa." I repeated my plea, voice shaking. "Stephen, I'm broke. The company's done. Can you spot me 5,000 A?" Long pause followed. I could almost hear him weighing his words. Lisa, I can't, he said finally. I lost a ton in a bad deal last year. I'm not sure you're good for it. His doubt stung sharper than I expected. Stephen, who'd sat with me through pitch decks and late-night beers, thought I might be playing him. I get it, I mumbled, ending the call before he could say more. His refusal settled like a weight so different from Karen's instant trust. Karen's promise kept replaying in my mind. She was already planning her drive, probably digging through her savings jar, counting crumpled bills. I pictured her packing snacks for Ethan, her little guy who loved dinosaurs, and always asked me to read him bedtime stories. Her old Civic barely made it around Tulsa 200 miles, was a gamble. She was giving everything she had, no questions asked, while Dad, Mom, and now Stephen had turned away. Their rejections made sense. Dad's selfishness, Mom's judgment, Stephen's caution, but Karen's loyalty was something else. It was fierce, selfless, the kind of love I hadn't felt in years. But it came with a cost. I'd lied to her pretending I was desperate when $5 million sat untouched in my account. The guilt gnawed at me, twisting my stomach. I paced my apartment, imagining Karen's face when she arrived. Would she see through my act? I'd planned this test to find out who cared, but now it felt like a betrayal. Karen wasn't just my sister. She was the one who'd bandaged my knees as a kid, who'd stayed up late helping me study when Mom was too busy and Dad was gone. She deserved the truth, but I wasn't ready to tell her. Not yet. I needed to see her to know her sacrifice was real. The thought of her driving through the night, Ethan asleep in the back seat, made my chest ache with gratitude and shame. I'd hurt her with this lie, and I didn't know how I'd make it right. Stephen's refusal lingered too. I understood his hesitation. He'd been burned before, lost thousands on a failed investment, but his doubt made me question our friendship. Was he just protecting himself? Or did he think I'd sunk so low I'd scam him? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on Karen. She'd be here tomorrow, pulling into Austin with her beat-up car and her big heart. I had to be ready to face her, to carry the weight of my deception. My phone buzzed, a text from Karen leaving at dawn. See you soon. I stared at it, torn between love for her and dread for what I'd done. On Saturday morning, I stood outside an Austin diner waiting for Karen and Ethan. My heart pounded as their battered Honda Civic pulled into the lot, tires squeaking. Karen stepped out, her eyes heavy with exhaustion from the 200-mile drive, her hair messy from the wind. Ethan bounced out next, clutching a box of animal crackers, his grin wide as he waved at me. Aunt Lisa, he chirped, oblivious to his mom's tired slump. Karen hugged me tightly, her arms trembling, and handed me a crumpled envelope with $600, her entire savings. It's all I've got, she whispered. We'll figure this out together. Her sacrifice broke something in me. I couldn't keep lying to her. Inside the diner, we sat in a worn booth, Ethan munching crackers and coloring a paper placemat. My hands shook as I looked at Karen, her face etched with worry but full of love. Care, I need to tell you something. I started, my voice barely steady. My company's gone, but I inherited $5 million from our Aunt Margaret. Her eyes widened, confusion flashing across her face. I lied about needing money, I admitted, tears welling. I tested everyone, Dad, Mom, Stephen, to see who'd show up. I'm so sorry I lied to you. Karen's jaw tightened, her hands balling into fists. You played me, she snapped, her voice low but sharp. I drove all night, Lisa, thinking you were desperate. Do you know how that feels? Ethan glanced up, sensing the tension, and my heart sank. I reached for her hand, but she pulled back. I was scared, I said, choking up. I read about money tearing families apart. I needed to know who cared without it. You're the only one who showed up, Care. Her eyes softened, but hurt lingered. You could have just asked, she said quietly. I'd do anything for you, money or not. Silence hung between us, heavy but honest. Finally, she sighed, squeezing my hand. I get why you did it. Just don't lie to me again. Relief flooded me, mixed with guilt. I'd hurt the one person who'd always had my back. I want to make this right, I said, glancing at Ethan, who was doodling a T-Rex. Let me pay for his preschool, and I'll help you get a new place in Tulsa or here if you want. Karen frowned, pride flaring. I don't need charity, Lisa, she said, but her voice wavered. I pressed on, gentle but firm. It's not charity. It's family. She looked at Ethan, then back at me, and nodded slowly. Okay, but only for him, she said, her eyes glistening. I smiled, promising myself I'd never betray her trust again. That afternoon, I called Stephen from my apartment. My voice was steadier now, but my nerves weren't. Stephen, I wasn't broke, I said bluntly. I inherited $5 million and tested you. I'm sorry. He was quiet for a moment, then let out a low whistle. Damn, Lisa, that's a lot, he said. I shouldn't have doubted you. I was just burned before. His apology felt genuine, and I exhaled, relieved. I want to start a fund for women entrepreneurs who've failed, I said. Will you help me set it up? Stephen didn't hesitate. Count me in, he said, excitement in his voice. Let's make something good out of this. I hung up, feeling a spark of hope. Karen's forgiveness and Stephen's offer were small steps toward rebuilding what I'd almost lost. Sitting alone that night, I thought about Karen's tired eyes and Ethan's innocent smile. My lie had tested her, but her love had passed with flying colors. Stephen's willingness to move forward gave me a chance to mend our friendship. The $5 million felt less like a burden now, more like a tool to do right by the people who mattered. I wasn't sure what came next, but for the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't alone. Months later, an Austin headline spilled the truth about my inheritance. The news hit like wildfire, and my phone buzzed with calls I'd dreaded. Paul Bennett, my dad, was the first to reach out. His voicemail was all charm, like we hadn't spoken in years. Lisa heard about your windfall. I could use a new car, a Bentley maybe. You owe me for raising you. I laughed bitterly, replaying his message. Raising me, he'd walked out when I was 8, leaving me with nothing but excuses. I texted back, short and final. No money, no contact. Goodbye, Paul. Then I blocked his number. It felt like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. He'd chosen his new life over me decades ago, and I was done chasing his approval. Next came Diane Bennett and her husband Ronald Pierce calling from Miami. Mom's voice was syrupy, a far cry from her earlier venom. Lisa, we're so proud of you, she cooed. Our condo's underwater, could you cover the mortgage? Family helps family, right? Ronald chimed in, suggesting a small loan of $50,000. I saw through their act. They'd called me a failure when I was down, and now they wanted a piece of my fortune. You made it clear I'm not your family. I said, my voice steady. Don't call again. I hung up and blocked them too. Their silence after that was louder than their words had ever been. I'd spent years hoping for their love, but I was done begging for scraps. Word got back to me through a mutual friend in Phoenix. Dad's new wife left him fed up with his empty promises of luxury. Without my money to fuel their lifestyle, she packed her bags, leaving him in a rented condo with unpaid bills. Paul was alone now, his charm useless without cash to back it up. I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd built his life on shallow priorities, and they'd crumbled under him. In Miami, Mom and Ronald faced their own reckoning. Their condo was foreclosed, the bank seizing it after years of reckless spending on vacations and designer clothes. They moved to a cramped apartment, their socialite dreams in tatters. Their downfall wasn't my fault. They'd chosen flashover stability long before I was born. Meanwhile, Stephen and I threw ourselves into building the Rise Up Fund. We set up shop in a small office in East Austin, papers and coffee cups scattered across desks. The fund aimed to give women entrepreneurs a second chance after business failures, offering grants and mentorship. I'd known that pain watching Learn Easy collapse, and I wanted others to have the support I didn't. Stephen handled the finances, his sharp mind cutting through red tape. We'd already funded 3 women, a coder with a failed app, a baker who'd lost her shop, and a designer burned by bad investors. Their gratitude, their drive reminded me why I'd started this. Karen visited often, bringing Ethan, who'd run around our office drawing dinosaurs on whiteboards. She'd settled into a modest Tulsa home I'd helped buy, and Ethan was thriving in a new preschool. Her smile, free of worry, was worth every penny. Cutting off Dad and Mom wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Their greed confirmed what I'd feared: they only cared when I had something to offer. Letting them go freed me to focus on what mattered: Karen, Ethan, and the women we were helping. The Rise Up Fund grew with Stephen and me planning to expand it nationally. I'd lost a company, but I'd gained a purpose. My family wasn't perfect, but the ones who stayed, Karen, Ethan, even Stephen, were enough. I looked at the Austin skyline from my loft, no longer chasing anyone's approval, but my own. A year later, I sat with Karen and Ethan in their new backyard. The Austin sun warmed the grass where Ethan chased a soccer ball, his laughter echoing through the small garden. Karen leaned back in a lawn chair, sipping iced tea, her face relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. We'd both moved to Austin, carving out lives side by side. She taught at a local school, and I'd visit after work, helping Ethan with his spelling or grilling burgers for the three of us. Our bond had grown stronger, built on late-night talks and shared dreams. Not just the house I'd helped her buy. Karen was more than my sister. She was my anchor, the one who'd shown up when no one else did. The Rise Up Fund had become my purpose. Stephen and I had helped 20 women rebuild their businesses, from a single mom launching a catering service to a coder whose app was now in beta. Our East Austin office buzzed with energy walls covered in thank you notes from grantees. One woman, a jeweler who'd lost everything in a bad partnership, sent me a handmade bracelet with a card that read, "You gave me my spark back." I wore it every day, a reminder that failure wasn't the end. The fund wasn't just about money, it was about proving you could rise from ashes, just as I had after Learneasy's collapse. Stephen's steady partnership kept us grounded, his spreadsheets balancing my big ideas. I'd learned what mattered most: independence and genuine connection. The $5 million from Margaret's inheritance was a tool, not my worth. It let me help Karen and Ethan fund the Rise Up dream, but it didn't define me. My strength came from walking away from toxic ties and choosing the people who saw me for me, not my bank account. Karen's loyalty, Ethan's joy, Stephen's trust, they were my real wealth. I'd spent years chasing approval from people who didn't care, but now I stood on my own, surrounded by those who did. Paul and Diane's fates were a stark lesson. Dad, alone in Phoenix, had lost his wife and his charm, living in a cheap motel after his debts piled up. His selfishness cost him everything: his family, his status, his pride. Diane and Ronald, evicted from their Miami condo, scraped by in a rundown rental, their socialite facade shattered. Their greed and reckless spending led to their downfall, a mirror of the emptiness they'd always chased. Their lives were a warning: selfishness comes with a price, one that no amount of money can pay. My journey taught me hard truths, and I hope it resonates with you. Failure doesn't define you, your resilience does. Hold tight to the people who stand by you when you're at your lowest, like Karen did for me. And don't be afraid to let go of those who only bring you down, no matter how much it hurts. Build your life on your terms with courage and heart. I'm grateful for every one of you who's followed this story to the end. Your support means the world. Please share your thoughts in the comments. What's a lesson you've learned from your own challenges? And if this story moved, you hit that subscribe button to join us for more.